Have you ever wanted to find a super hot wife or girlfriend or even a hookup buddy who's down to let you sleep with other women? Of course you have, let's be honest. Or maybe you're dating a few different women casually and you want to be more open and honest about your desires, but you're not sure how to broach the topic because you're worried you might offend her or scare her off, which would really suck. Or maybe you just want to challenge the standard narrative that every girl from a good family is only interested in monogamy and all the other women who are fun are narcissists and toxic or hypergamous sirens to be avoided. Well, you'll want to tune into this episode because I have the fabulous Simi here who fits that description to a T. She's that unicorn that every guy wants. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to try to extract enough juicy info from her to teach you guys exactly how you can find your own unicorn or a stable of unicorns of Simi. So you're listening to the Inner Confidence Podcast, formerly called the Leverage Podcast. We help you unleash the most attractive, charismatic, and confident you in order to attract quality connections, both personal and romantic. My name is Robbie Kramer. I've been a coach since 2007, and I've helped over 1,300 people level up their dating and social skills. My mission is simple: to help you crush the dating game, build an epic social life, and attract your ideal partner. I've known Simi since you were like, what? 5?
9.
9? Okay. Best friends with my sister, Julie. I remember you getting in trouble in middle school for, not middle school, it was like elementary school. I was in middle school at the time. We should tell that story at some point.
Should. Oh, God.
Simi told some girl to go 69 when you were how old at the time?
I was 10, and Niffy had just taught me what 69 was. And then
my other
somebody...
sister.
And then somebody, I forget what they were saying to me, but I was like, why don't you just go fucking 69 with Daniel? Immediately she told the teacher and I got in trouble.
But the best part about that was you and my younger sister didn't get in nearly as much trouble as my older sister. Well, she's older than Julie, but younger than me. And I lived for Niffy to get in trouble. That was like,
I didn't know that.
The greatest thing ever. Oh yeah. I would always team up against Julie to bully Niffy. I was a terrible older brother. I was such a bully. But she taught you guys what 69 meant because it was written all over my bar mitzvah, sided board.
It was the bar mitzvah board that got us. And I immediately told, because Niffy went to Pegasus at the same time.
Right.
So I immediately just told the teachers that Niffy taught me. And Niffy didn't forgive me until I think I was 21. Yeah, she fucking hated me. Yeah,
she held a grudge.
The girl could hold a grudge. But we lived. Now we're really close. So
I just think that's the best story ever. So go 69 with Danny, said the 10-year-old. So anyways.
I haven't really changed, by the way. Like I just made friendship bracelets with my friends and I chose live to fart.
I love it.
And the other one I made was live to come. And I gave that to Julie.
My favorite thing about your, when you live with Julie, I think you still probably have this internet password. It was Queefing Wizards. Was the network name?
Yes.
So
I got the domain. Queefingwizards.com. I mean, there's no treasure to find. I haven't done anything with it, but I have the podcast name. I was thinking about starting a podcast, I guess. I have the website and I have Queefing the Instagram.
If you start that, I want to be a guest. I can't queef,
my first guest,
but I feel like I'm fairly knowledgeable on the subject and the sound of queefing.
I never thought about that. You can't queef.
I can't, but I can fart pretty good.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And speaking of funny shit like that, your shirt is pretty funny here. We should just...
Yeah, I wore the titty shirt.
Milk for humans.
All you perverts out there.
Well, this is an episode that will speak to perverts, I think, because...
Nice.
What is interesting about Simi is, like I said, she comes from an amazing family. Your parents are still married. You're like a well-adjusted, really cool, down-to-earth, not narcissistic, very self-introspective. We can talk about some of your ayahuasca journeys and that stuff as well, if we have time. And you're also very open. You're very like upfront about sexuality stuff. And it's going to be cool because I want to ask you all about like what you would do on your first dates. So Simi was, I guess, self-proclaimed a sure thing on a first date. Like you would basically bang the guy on the
Yeah.
first date almost every time if he was cool,
I think it was every time.
even if he wasn't cool?
Yeah.
Really?
Like once I got through the you're hot enough and not a serial killer, everything else was sort of, yeah, not a problem.
And this was like online dating circa 2014, 15.
Yeah, I would say it was like Tinder and shit from like 2010 to, I mean, I had an open marriage for a while. So, I mean,
Well, even before that though, because I remember, around that time, like 2000, yeah, like I feel like Tinder got popular like 2012, 2011. It came out. You were living with Julie, and
mhm.
you were going on lots of dates and meeting guys on Tinder, going to the horny goat or the surly goat.
I forget it was down the street from us and we would plan our dates on the same night and then like walk to it together, have our dates at separate tables, not tell the dates, and then we'd walk back to our apartment like fucking weirdos. And one time I actually went up to her because my date was over. I went up to her and I pretended to recognize her as a dancer from Jumbo's.
I mean, that's a strip club in LA.
And then I was like, just kidding. I'm her best friend. Nice to meet you. The guy was so freaked out, but.
So, yeah. So how did, looking back, like, how do you feel about those choices you made when you were single? Like, how did you approach your dating life back then? And, what are your thoughts on it now?
My belief is that human beings are animals. And we have instincts like animals. I just don't know that I think monogamy is very natural. Though I don't judge it. Of course, I understand there are structures in place and it works for a lot of people, and a lot goes into non-monogamy if you really want to succeed at that. For most of my life, non-monogamy having a role in my relationship was as important to me as the person themselves. It felt to me so counter to everything about myself to tell somebody else that they get to decide what the fuck I do with my body. And I don't like the idea of having the impulse to be sexual or have a sexual relationship with somebody and being told no by some third party. That to me always didn't sit right.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came to dating, I don't know. It's not like I approached this with just a wholly healthy outlook in my younger years. I would say I had a bit more of like a masculine approach or a traditionally masculine approach to things.
Yeah.
That like,
well, I mean, if you think about just the standard narrative, gender roles when it comes to dating, like dudes are trying to get laid on the first date every time.
yeah, same.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So like when you had a first date, the goal was sex?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also really, really like people. The older I get, the more I realize that's kind of uncommon. I like every single person I meet.
I think we have that in common.
Yeah. We do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something everyone shares, I'm realizing.
Yeah, I've been realizing that too as I get older. I just naturally see the good in everything.
Me too.
Like my brain automatically sorts for like what's good. Like I could see it, I especially do this with women. Like I'll see a girl, whatever, we're going to rate her on a scale of, 1 to 10. She's like a 5.5, right? Let's say she has a great ass and her face is gross. And, like I'll just see the ass. I'll just see that's
yeah.
it, right? And I'll be like, ooh, okay.
That ass though.
Right.
Yeah.
But then but then the second I start dating her, then I notice everything else. And then I'm like, uh-oh, get me out of here.
There you go.
So it's like
you get the ick.
Exactly. I get the ick.
Do you get the ick around month 9?
I get the ick like, I feel like month 9, I got some ick. I got to get the hell out of here a lot around month 9, 8 to 9.
8 to 9, I tapped out on most like if it was like I would hook up with the same person and it be non-monogamous for years on end, so long as they could be cool about it. And I'll talk more about that. But The second it was like anything like I'm your girlfriend, around month 9, I start seeing stuff that I just don't want to see.
Right. Like your brain just focuses on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I
You
just,
can't unsee it.
they're shorts or it doesn't have to be a big deal thing.
Oh, I got grossed out one time by a girl I was dating because of her ankles.
Yeah.
And she didn't even have cankles. She just had normal ankles. But like I noticed that like they were a little bit not so great. And I couldn't unsee it. And my brain just became obsessed with it. And I had to break up with her. And
Defining not so great ankle.
it was just a proportion of like her ankles, or it wasn't even her ankles. It was more her calves. Her calves were like a little bit fatter than they should have been.
Okay.
But she wasn't fat. She was really thin.
So it was just the calves?
But I mean, so this is where I think just the calves. But I feel like my brain was playing a trick on me because this is when I had just turned 30, and she was like everything I wanted in a life partner. She was like,
Do I know her?
I don't think you ever met her.
Okay.
I'm sure she doesn't listen to this podcast because she blocked me a long time ago. She's an amazing girl. Lena, you ever remember?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So I was living in New York City at the time. She was a pharmacist, Jewish, comes from a,
Nice.
like,
yeah,
everything was good. Met her on
good.
J-date, right? We were both 30 years old. And then like everything was good until like month 9. And then I got this like overwhelming urge that like I just couldn't be in that relationship anymore. And the calves were a problem.
Yep.
So I went to see a therapist about it, and I explained like these thoughts I was having. I'm like, I had never been to a therapist before. And he was like asking me questions like, what did you do as a kid? Were you into sports? And I'm like, yeah, I was like, really into hockey and then golf and then poker. And I get like obsessive about things. And then I like move on. And now I'm a dating coach. And now like, and he's like, well, you're just playing a new sport. And that sport is picking up chicks. And you're not ready to retire. So this whole focusing on her calves is just like your unconscious brain telling you to like get out for whatever reason because you don't like the setup of this relationship. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's why they pay them the big bucks.
It's funny how that kind of stuff will sneak up on you in that way. Because it was always some sort of fucking arbitrary thing. And then you talked about like how I don't remember if it was like how I felt about dating or some shit, but like
some bullshit question.
Some bullshit that you're trying to give me anyways. But when I look back on the effect that I had, like my impact at the time, I felt entirely justified with everything that I did. Cause you know me, I have like this ethical code I always stick to. My word is so important to me. So I thought, I'm telling everyone the rules of the game. I'm never lying. But when I look back on my impact, I feel bad now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I want to first touch on that integrity that you talk about, because that I think is like such a powerful way to live. Like if there's one motto you can choose in life, it's like my word is
my
everything.
Bond or whatever.
Yeah, my word is
my bond.
But I learned that from I think it was Landmark.
Yeah.
And did you ever do a Landmark?
I got too hungover and they didn't reimburse me. But I know about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's some people call it a cult, but I think it's a healthy version of a cult. At least it's just kind of how they enroll new members by having people refer. But anyways, what I learned in Landmark was like, all you have is your word in life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't trust your own word, then you're just not knowing yourself as someone who follows through on things, someone who's powerful and can create something. And their whole idea is like, when you say, I am going to do this thing, you're actually going to fucking do it and mean it.
Exactly.
That's incredibly empowering.
It isn't just telling people the truth, which I will always do. It's if I say I'm going to be there at 2:00, I'm there at fucking 2:00 p.m.
She was here at 2:00 today, and we were
actually, yeah, that's right.
I have an alibi. I was on another call, but Maria's phone.
I didn't even try to get in touch. I was on the phone having a good time, but
she was waiting in the lobby.
Yeah, it did kind of seem like an underhanded because I chose to.
No, we felt bad. We were running down to get you, but the other part of that, it's like when it comes to dating, because I was a schmuck from like when I started, 18 when I started, becoming sexually active until I was about 30. I was a liar. I was a cheater. I didn't give a shit about like those ramifications. You know, I was all the bad things you don't want to date. And actually, it was a little before that. I think 28 when I cleaned up my act and I took on this new way of being of like, let's just be brutally honest and let's be honest. Let's date with honesty and integrity. And I can happily say in that relationship that I mentioned before with the pharmacist, you know, I told her literally, I'm like, hey, I went to see a therapist. This is what he said. And she's like, yeah, you're just a player with a nice smile. Have a good life. And, you know, she didn't speak to me since.
Kind of respect her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, there's literally nothing wrong with her. She was like everything I had ever wanted. It's just I wasn't ready for that relationship.
Yeah. I'm sure she found someone who was.
Yeah.
And
I hope she did.
It worked out for everybody.
Totally. And, you know, there was a lot of pressure, though, because I was in this sort of damned if I do, damned if I don't headspace where like, I might not find another like perfect wife material, right? Because like, you know, my family is monogamous and everyone's been together forever. There's like all this pressure that I've always felt to like not choose the wrong partner, not be the first like divorcee.
That's really interesting. I had never considered that.
Really? Yeah.
That like your parents' marriage to me is kind of the epitome of a success.
Yeah.
And I've always just looked at them and been like, okay, I have an example for how this shit should go.
Totally. And it was the same with their parents, both sets of my grandparents.
Oh, wow.
And their sisters and well, they only have sisters. But so all my sets of aunts and uncles, never divorce. All really solid, like healthy relationships.
This is a fucking miracle.
I know.
You guys are like shattering the statistics.
Completely, right?
On my end of things, I didn't have that really, like anywhere I looked. And so I had to be really intentional about how I handled my marriage. And then let's throw in the complication of let's fuck other people too. So you really have to have like a rock solid love for each other, respect, communication, or I don't know, good luck.
Well, it's definitely, and I'm excited to talk about this, like the challenges of having an open relationship versus a monogamous relationship.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in a monogamous relationship now with my wife, and I found after 10 plus years of open relationships that was more like my default way of being. I also agree with you that we're monogamous for small periods of time, but we're mostly non-monogamous, promiscuous, I guess, or whatever the other word for it is.
Yeah.
Dr. David Buss talks about this a lot in his book, Evolution of Desire. And it's that, you know, humans, we're monkeys, right? And we act like monkeys. We're monogamous for short periods of time when we reproduce and raise children or some period of time in there, but people are cheating left and right all the time.
There's also the difference in biology between men and women. And I have something interesting that I'd love to ask your opinion on. But like, okay, in theory, just from like an evolutionary biological place, men are supposed to just fuck everything and spread their seed as much as humanly possible and procreate as much as possible. That's I think.
That's like what the DNA wants us to do.
That's what the DNA is wanting you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And women are trying to find like the most secure provider because they don't get to they have to get pregnant once and it better fucking work.
Right.
And what's interesting to me, I've considered that so much in like, why am I so not that?
Well, you only need to do that for a period of time until the baby is safe.
18 years of none of that, I get to be a hoe again? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
For the baby to be safe, it may be like 2 years. Right?
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
You know, it's or just for the baby to be born and then having, you know, then you can, I mean, if you just look at what a lot, not most, but like, I guess most 60%, you know, there's the huge, you know, group of angry dudes on the internet, red pill guys that say all women are hypergamous and they're just trying to like, you know, find a provider to, you know, to use and have a kid with them and then end up fucking the pool boy, right? There's that huge group of internet trolls, that red pillars, if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
Who are kind of indoctrinated with that sort of mindset. So yeah, there's certainly, I mean, if you just look at what a lot of people are doing, the standard narrative, again, it's like guys are just trying to get laid. Women are just trying to like, you know, fuck the guy who can give them the best baby, and then when they get bored of him, ditch that guy and find a richer guy, right? That would be like the horrible view of the whole situation, I feel like.
Well, meanwhile, my plan, I didn't want anyone's fucking money. My choice in who I married was not related to money. And I didn't let people pay on dates.
If you're new to the show, I highly recommend you download my free dating protocol. It'll help you optimize your first dates, take all the guesswork and planning out of the equation. And I like to connect with my listeners personally. So to grab a copy, send me a message on Instagram, Robbie_Kramer.
My whole plan was I'm going to become a multimillionaire making movies, and then I'll just have different pool boys I fuck and everything will be beautiful.
So that's interesting. So you had that sort of plan as like a young,
as like
young
a fucking 15-year-old. I was like,
Amazing.
These are my dreams.
Yeah. Which
and-
you got an amazing job as a producer at Marvel. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can say
You've
say
fucking
that.
produced like how many box office hits now?
I'm credited on, I don't even know, 20 plus. But I like on the ground produced 3. I did What If, an animated series on Disney Plus, and then I did Black Widow, which is a feature, and then Thor: Love and Thunder, which is a feature.
Thor, I love it.
Oh, but here's what I wanted your opinion on.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been like, why am I like this? And then I found out through like a series of testing my hormones and all of that, that I have PCOS and I have high androgens. So like high testosterone for women.
What's PCOS? What does that stand for?
Polycystic ovary syndrome. It's actually fairly common, I guess.
Okay. So you have high testosterone, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm now wondering if there's some sort of correlation. That's what I wanted your opinion on, what you thought. But
well, yeah. I mean, if you just look at feminine versus masculine energy, right? And
yeah,
there's certainly a lot more testosterone. You could say that's what kind of, I don't know, bifurcates the genders, right? Is a lack of testosterone and versus estrogen. I'm sure there's a million other things. I'm a fucking doctor, of course, but
I don't know even why I'm asking what your opinion.
Well, no,
what's your medical opinion on this?
Well, the higher here's what I know, and I've coached well over 1,000 clients for since 2007. I've always had a really high sex drive, and every time I've gotten my T checked, I've been well above the standard range. Luckily, I've never had to go on testosterone replacement, but I know tons of clients who have, and they're all telling me that I should anyways, even though my T levels are good.
Why would you fucking? You want more torque? Like, I think you're good. No.
Well, there's all sorts of arguments that it makes you focus. And
gotcha.
So like what I heard recently from what's that doctor's podcast? He's the Huberman, exactly. Yeah. So he's saying like testosterone, or maybe it wasn't testosterone, but there's that one there's that thing that gets, maybe it's testosterone, or it's it makes you want to do hard work. It makes hard work feel good. So when you have more testosterone, anyways, you want to produce that.
Like, is it dopamine?
No, it's not dopamine.
It's not that's not a hormone, but I'm just like,
maybe it is testosterone. Well, we'll put it in the show notes. Whatever that thing is, it makes hard work
you'll
feel good.
see it there.
Yeah. So when you have more T, right? You want to fuck, you want to work, you want to do hard work. And when you have low T, you want to Netflix and do nothing and eat junk food. And so for a guy with low T, and I see it a lot with clients, and I tell them to get on T because they're just yeah, I don't care, blah, blah, and I want to care. Yeah. And I have them check their levels, and they're like, okay, I need to. And you can develop T naturally by there's some supplements you can take, and obviously working out is the best way to do it, lifting heavy weights. But so as a woman with high T, it would make sense that you want to operate more as a man.
I was like, ambition, win, fuck, I'm horny. Oh, I had zits that your sister had to help me get rid of with the use of spironolactone. And also getting my androgens down with spironolactone made me I used to be if I don't have sex right now, I'm going to die.
Yeah,
you know,
that's how
and
most young guys feel.
now I'm just like good.
So
But
you
as a
don't have the
woman,
same. So now you feel differently.
oh yeah. But I mean, as a woman, it's like sort of Tinder is like a little catalog magazine. You just like that one, and then it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
kind of so. And were you dating much before Tinder?
I always like chronically found myself having boyfriends, which is odd because I hated having boyfriends.
Well, every time. I mean, here's the thing. And we talked about this before, and I always experienced it. It's like whenever you're wanting to be non-monogamous, typically the people who you hook up with, they want to lock you down. And the more that they want to lock you down, the less you want to lock yourself down.
The more I get the ick.
The more you get the ick, and the more that they want you. And so it just creates this sort of, attachment theory. They call it anxious versus insecure attachment, or avoidant versus, anxious attachment. And as a woman, right, like you felt that hardcore, like basically so like I want to ask of those, how many like dates do you think you went on during that period of time? Like slept with the guy the first day, it doesn't have to be the number, but like the percentage of guys that wanted to then be in a relationship with you. What was that percentage?
100%. And I'm not, this is just the data. I don't know. That makes me feel really like not modest.
Well,
but
why wouldn't they?
I'm here to speak the truth.
Yeah.
I always felt as if my friends had like varying theories as to why this was the case. Like my pheromones were weird, or I don't know. But ultimately, I think it boils down to the psychology of it. My indifference drove them crazy.
Yeah. Well, we all want what we can't have.
And I found myself over the years, like many people getting in fights, and like my house was vandalized. My car was vandalized.
By jealous dudes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And you were totally upfront, honest with them.
Whole time.
Yeah. Then just like,
here are the rules of the game. You want to play?
So when would you present that information on a first date? Like how did the dates usually go? Where like, would you talk about that on Tinder before meeting up?
I think it would be just in conversation on the first date. I'm really the kind of person who I don't like small talk very much. And I like to ask a lot of questions, and I'm very honest about things I think people would typically hide about themselves, but I'm kind of like, here it is.
Yeah.
So it came up.
It just naturally kind of come up in the course of the first 30 minutes or so.
Yeah. I very rarely wanted a second date also.
What was the difference? If it was a good sex, was it some connection? Was there anything that you can think of that like made the guy worthy of that?
Ultimately, this is really dumb, but I need their hair to look a certain way.
I love it.
I'm so sorry. I'm not a superficial person, but it almost feels like a fetish at this point because it's such a prerequisite.
It's so interesting. So what does the hair look like?
It cannot be short. It cannot.
So no bald guys.
Oh, that would not.
Really?
I feel horrible, but that would be a no. Okay. I mean, unless he was like, a super hot, like black guy, then maybe I could let it go.
Okay.
But I just can't. I need
so the hair needs to be like the longer the better. Like
no,
Jesus
I think I'm
hair.
In some weird repressed adolescent state where it needs to look like, the guys from like Brink. Did you ever see that movie? Mm-mm. Just like shaggy skater hair or surfer hair.
Okay.
Can't hit the like not to the shoulders. No man buns can be seen.
Oh, got it. So it's got to be like a full hairstyle of some sort, but no long hair, no bald.
Yeah.
But you'd fuck the bald guy, or the other guy just wouldn't date him.
Bald no. I feel really bad saying this because there may be some balds out there who are really worthy of all sorts of things. But for me specifically, I also like, I dated guys who had severe acne. Like that didn't bother me.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like
how about height requirements?
No height requirements.
Yeah.
I tend to find like everyone hot too. Yeah. That's the other thing.
Same.
Seeing the good. Yeah. Like I just think everyone's hot.
Yeah.
And And then that would be an issue, you know, in the workplace. I'm
Until
like,
you get the ick.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like they're all hot until you fuck them. And then they're like, oh my God, what happened? Like, you know, or not.
Yeah. You turn over them and then you're like, wait, oh no.
Regretful. But I mean, even I can only think of maybe 2 girls ever that I slept with that I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And I was really drunk at the time, or, you know, out of many. So it's not like I was, you know, going, what do they call that? Going hogging or something, or it's terrible. Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking like, you know, how you can call a dick like a hog.
Mm.
Justin loves to call it his hog.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
They also call motorcycles their hog.
You mean like the women are hogs?
Mhm.
Ew. Let the
Going on
record show that I do not approve of that language.
Yeah, that's I didn't say it. Who said it?
I
I
don't.
think it was the dog.
Yeah.
So
It wasn't us.
So you're going on the, you know, the first date, you bang, they want to bang again. And so what percentage of guys would you sleep with more than once? Like if you had the right hair and sex was good,
Yeah.
you know,
Realistically,
and he wasn't going to get clingy.
Realistically, like I have such a specific type. Like they look like they came out of the factory.
Mhm.
And I was always willing to stray off type in case the personality was like so charming or funny. Like funny is for me like enough.
Yeah.
But typically that never came to pass. I would get there and be like, this is fine.
Yeah.
As a person, I really like them. I love getting to know them. This is really fun. But just like for my own sexual needs, no.
How
But
often,
so at 10%, I don't know, 10%?
okay. How often would you find the guy to be like timid or shy, not enough confidence to just like take you home? Because I teach my clients a dating protocol. I teach them where to go on the first date, what to do on the second date. Then the third date is all about having like a couple's experience. So you feel like you're already a couple, and then she feels more comfortable like having sex because you're not just random. And then the fourth venue is your place or her place. But what it sounds like you were doing is more just like venue 1, meet at the bar, back to your place or back to his place and sex, or how'd they typically go? Was there any like pattern?
You know, I think that I have a way of kind of disarming people a little bit because I'm not judgmental, and I also am an oversharer. And so I would say that by the time the conversation was over, it was pretty clear what was happening. Like, I don't think they really needed to get too assertive about it. It was just
interesting. So it was,
yeah.
It was just kind of spoken in a innuendo.
There were guys who I guess were nervous at the beginning, but it quickly like became normal.
Okay. Who was making the physical moves?
Probably me, to be honest.
Interesting. So you were doing the physical escalation and
I was doing it all.
Doing it all.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Taking on that masculine role. Did you find though that you were more attracted to like really masculine versus more feminine type of guys? Because I mean, if you just do the logical conclusion, it's like the more masculine energy you're running, the more you're going to want like a feminine sort of man. You see that a lot with like lesbians.
Yes. So I kept finding myself in relationships with more effeminate men, but I didn't like it. Didn't sustain. And I always got myself to this point where I was devastated to lose the friendship because I just love people so much, but that I just wasn't into it anymore. And then ultimately people ask a lot, like, why Justin? Like what, even though like he's a lovely person, it's pretty evident when you meet him, but like specifically to me, because there was plenty of lovely, wonderful people that I met. And he's, in my opinion, so masculine that I can be feminine, and also so masculine that he's not showy. He doesn't need to even demonstrate it. He's actually like quite passive and chill. Yeah. If someone was like hitting on me or making me feel weird, I don't think he'd be like, hey, let's fight. You know,
He'd just be like, I I don't need to bother with this because I know she's coming home with me anyways.
Some guy actually on our flight from Florida last week told Justin, "Can I have her?" And he was like, yeah. Like, no,
Sure, bro.
sure.
Justin's the best because he's very chill.
Yeah.
He's, you can tell that if he needs to be assertive and confrontational, he will be.
Exactly.
It's like, why would I bother if I don't need to be?
But I don't think it's a coincidence that where I landed was somebody who was like very sturdy in their masculinity.
Yeah. No, I think so too. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like you might have a lot of masculine energy when it comes to sex and those sorts of things, but like you're a very feminine, like, girl. And like, you're not, no one would be like Simona's masculine. The only thing about the masculine energy is maybe just like some of the sex stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what was
and
it?
The humor,
the
like wiener humor,
big jokes and poop and fart jokes.
Poop and farts. It's you can get me talking about it for any amount of time.
Better than a good fart joke.
I honestly would watch Terrence and Phillip. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's the show they're obsessed with in South Park.
Like the poop smearing.
All they do is just fart in the show.
I think I watched the Cartman poop smearing episode like more than any other episode. And I don't really even watch South Park, so
it's my favorite show of all time. So there you go.
Yeah.
You can see what my humor is.
So what made you want to like get off the first date, fuck, casual only, and like, eventually get married? And it's not like you were open then, you're still open now, but
we're actually not open now.
Oh, you're not? Okay. You were for a long time and then.
Yeah. So once Justin quit drinking alcohol 2 years ago, we were like, we don't need to add any more like potential chaos to this.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were still getting our sea legs. Even when we did have an open marriage, it was like during COVID, we were both drinking very heavily. And while our communication was great and we didn't run into any issues like on a jealousy front, we still didn't feel like we quite got to where we wanted it to be. And so when in the context of him quitting drinking, we were like, we don't need a second thing to navigate.
Right.
And what was your question?
Well, so did you always want to get married? Like what were because you told me when you were like 15, you had this sort of life plan to be, the boss, like make a bunch of money, have all these guys. And like, that didn't sound to me like there was a marriage component to it. And so am I wrong or did that change?
Yeah, it changed. My whole life, I was extremely anti-marriage and anti like having children, even though I love children. I met Justin, you know the story. I accidentally messaged him on Facebook thinking he was somebody else. We talked for 2 days just on Facebook and then we met in person and it was like immediately day one. I told him I don't believe in monogamy. That's not my long-term plan, but I was monogamous with him from the day I met him.
Right.
Just by choice.
Mm-hmm.
But he knew that in terms of my life plan, there was no universe that I would be monogamous long term. And I told him, don't think you're going to be the person to change me. Because you know how they always kind of think they will be the one?
Yeah. Totally.
Like every person thinks that.
All of them. I mean, that's the plot of almost every romance novel. It's like woman sees man who's attractive and he's like everything she wants, except he's like this fuck boy or he's mentally broken and she's going to fix him and become like the knight in shining armor, perfect guy. Right? Like, what's that movie? 50 Shades of Grey. And
yes,
that fucking story, right?
Yes.
That's every romance novel. So, and then of course, men, I mean, I know for sure, like my ego, if I ever ran into a girl like you, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to change. She's going to want to be monogamous with me. But
so what I was running into was like 2 years later, thinking I'm having a great time with my really good friend who I hook up with, that's when you get your car vandalized. I remember the fountain, my parents' like big fountain out front of their house. Somebody pushed it over. It was like
into the car.
No, these are separate events. This is what I'm telling you. Like these things. My
So this
parents
is when
are-
they realized that you were now in a relationship and they were pissed because like you didn't want it with them.
No, they just were over it. Like they would always be like, I know that you're in love with me and I know you want this. And I would be like, oh yeah, well then why am I not just having it then? Like they were always
The audacity to say that.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
but they all would say eventually, I just believed at some point you would believe in this and change your mind.
Right.
And that never happened. So I gave Justin the same shtick about marriage too,
Okay.
which was, I'm never getting married. Please don't think you're the one that's going to change my mind.
Well, someone pulled it off. But yeah, so what transpired there? How'd that switch?
I don't know how to describe it, but it was just, we're kindred spirits. I wrote down, like on the recommendation of my eyelash tech, every quality. Her pitch was, you think that you don't want partnership because you are thinking about it in the context of how society is structured now and what other people want. And you haven't considered how nice partnership could be if it were on your terms. So write out very specifically every single quality that you want in a person and ask the universe for it. And so I was like, okay. I did the little exercise. And I wrote Jewish, but not religious. Like Justin's an Ashkenazi Jew. You would never know.
And you're not Jewish.
No, but I wanted that.
Yeah.
You know that.
Why not?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I wrote favorite show is South Park. Favorite movie is Step Brothers. Curly hair, blue eyes. What else did I write?
Makes amazing new brew cocktail.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's do this.
The perfect segue.
This.
So actually, you and Justin and Justin's brothers, right, started this company.
Well, the three brothers founded it. I didn't start it.
Okay. You're the, the marketing chair or something now, or you just help?
Unsung hero behind
You're busy making Hollywood blockbuster movies. So what can you do? But so this shit's awesome. So you can tell, everything about it. I'm drinking it now and I feel great. And there's no alcohol. It's what's in it.
All right, here's my little pitch, and I won't take up too much time, but I'm speaking about this because I'm actually passionate about it and because it actually works. It's the fucking best. I don't know what the rules are on telling other people what the effects are, but here are the effects with me. It gives me energy and is the only thing that to date I have tried that gives me energy and doesn't give me anxiety. It's actually calming. And it's really good with motivation. I work out now because of New Brew. So it's transforming my health. And there's no alcohol, no cannabis. It's made from kava root and kratom leaf. So they're just these two plants.
And Earl Grey tea.
Yeah, it's got like 30 milligrams of caffeine from the tea, which is, I think, like a third or a fourth of a cup of coffee.
Total sugar, 3 grams, calories, 15.
All that shit in there is organic, except I don't think you can get organic kava and kratom, but everything else, or kratom, we don't know. Everything else is organic and it's really low sugar and
it tastes good.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good. I feel like, I just drank a bottle or a can and, I just feel very chill. Like I've had, a few glasses of wine, but not the same. It's hard to describe. So,
because you could still drive a car, like you're not inebriated, but it's a great alcohol replacement.
Yeah. So where can people find New Brew?
Drinknewbrew.com has a store locator. And we're in like 300 or so stores in Los Angeles, and then I think a couple hundred across America. And we also do DTC, so you can buy it online anywhere.
Well, there will be a link in the show notes to get it.
Fuck yeah.
And get that link because I'm going to make her give me a kickback on it. So if you're buying the New Brew, you're going to be buying me a New Brew too. So Yeah, try it out. It's great.
It's one of those things where it's like the hard part's getting someone to like getting the reach, getting people to even try it in the first place. How do you reach that many people?
Right.
But once people have it, they are obsessed with it.
I wish people would say that about my podcast. It's like, you guys watch this, share it. Right?
Yeah.
Become obsessed with it and tell everybody about it. I mean, it's the problem with this podcast. It's like, it's a little bit, there's that stigma if you tell someone else that you're like, you watch this inner confidence dating podcast but tell your buddies. Go out and,
I want you to know that I talk about you. Obviously, you're very close to me, and I talk about you all the time. And every man that I've ever talked to about you has been so jealous and so curious about who you are, including my dad. My dad's your biggest fan.
Oh, I love your dad. He's the best. I'm his biggest fan. So
yeah, you guys are like weird with each other. Has he tried to kiss you on the lips yet?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we've only hung out once.
That wouldn't stop him.
Yeah, that's it.
He's Italian, and when I was around like 25 or 26, he tried to like reinstate his old family tradition of kissing on the lips, and we were like, this we're too old. Like, the ship has sailed. You're not going to start kissing us in our 20s.
I like that the Italian guy is trying to bring that back, because it's you always need the one, touchy-feely Italian guy.
Look, it's uncreepy. Obviously, it's my dad. But I mean, so now as punishment for saying no, he kisses Justin and Justin's brothers and my sister's husband, Matt Ranger, on the lips in front of us all the time.
Really? Well,
yeah.
I'm totally fine if he wants to do that. I think it'd be fun. So
I'll let him know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I always remembered that he was always asking about, the trips I used to do and all that stuff. He wanted to come on.
That's what he wants to know.
The Playboy photo shoots. So not really doing those too much these days, but can still hook him up with the people that do. No, I'm just kidding. Getting back to what we're talking about, when it comes like, so Justin made you switch, wanting marriage, right? There's just something.
Yes.
He checked all the boxes, literally. And yeah, and tell us what, like, so it was monogamous, and then you guys opened it up, and.
Well, the way that we did it, in my opinion, was a very healthy way, where I was monogamous with him for 4 years, and we got married first. And when I say he put in the emotional fucking work of convincing my traumatized ass to get married, like, especially leading up to our wedding and stuff, I'm talking multiple nights in a row, 5 a.m., me freaking out, him, like, we know each other so well. And we also don't think our meeting was a coincidence. We feel like, we are souls that have been kind of like going through the same cycles for a while. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely like,
when you say traumatized, it was just, do you mean that kind of tongue in cheek because you never wanted to get married?
No, I mean it quite literally. I just had never seen any marriages where the people seemed happy to me. And that was everywhere I looked, other than your parents.
Yeah.
Though I'm not a child of divorce, we've come close in a number of times. I didn't believe that it could work. I thought it was like completely unnatural.
Yeah.
I feel like marriage is a vestige of an older time where there was like a fucking dowry involved and the women were property and like.
Well, the whole point of it was to literally get the state involved. So, there's many reasons for it, but one of them was to like avoid, to test paternity was part of it too. I think if that was a big problem back in the day is it my kid, right? The Maury Povich show, right? um,
Yeah.
who's my daddy? Uh, like that's like what so many men, the whole idea of getting cucked and raising someone else's child, right? Like there's
Mhm.
that's like the worst thing that could ever happen to a lot of guys. And so the marriage was a construct to keep women from cheating. It was to form alliances, like the you know king whoever of Spain, who was it, like Ferdinand of Spain, married the
Oh.
she married the king of England, and then there was that coalition
Yeah.
against France, and
There
so
was
like
some sort of political utility or some sort of an interfamilial benefit.
and most
Yeah.
were like, even though some were obviously arranged, like Indian marriages, but even non-Indian marriages were mostly arranged too. It was like your family
Mhm.
pushing you to marry. Even here in the U.S., like my mom would always be like, "Oh, it'd be so cool if like you started dating this XYZ family friend, or
Yeah.
this one, right?" And
Yeah.
then we'd be makatunim, I think is the Jewish word for in-laws. So yeah, and now, like, the idea of having the state involved is totally ridiculous and
I
stupid.
hate it.
I mean, I would have never agreed to marriage, just because I don't believe in the institution. But when it comes to Maria and I, like, that was the only way to get her into the States.
Mhm.
Like, she, without the K-1 fiance visa, right? She wouldn't be able to come. She wouldn't be able to stay. And I'm not talking about monogamy. I'm just talking about like marriage. Like, what's the fucking point?
Mhm.
Other than, and I'd be totally fine having like what is it? A
Civil union.
civil union,
Yeah.
whatever. It's like everyone thinks we're married, but we're just not registered as a state.
Wait, I think civil union is still registered or some shit. Or I don't know.
But whatever, to not have the state be involved. So then if you go through a divorce, you got to do all that stuff and the taxes and this and that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my thinking was, okay, life is crazy. Maybe life will throw me someone that I just can't live without. And I would like to wake up every day and say yes to them, not make a legal document bind me to some shit, because you ultimately can't control the behavior of other people. You can only control your reaction to that. And I was worried that and my word is my bond. So I thought, I'm going to vow to be with someone no matter what, for the rest of my life. That really scared me. I mean, I always told Justin, you could get in a horrific car accident and lose your penis, and I would still happily be married to you. But any sort of abusive shit, that's where I draw the line. And I'm not calling him abusive. We're still together. But the point is like, I put a little asterisk on my vow.
Mhm. Hey, you can do whatever you want.
Um,
Did the penis part go in there too?
yeah,
Nice.
like you may lose your penis. I will allow it.
Okay.
But anyway, so all of that shit really freaked me out. And we had to have a lot of conversations about it. But ultimately, I never had any questions surrounding, is this the right person?
Got it. It was just whether or not to actually get married.
Yeah, I mean, and at the point that we got engaged, he knew I would say yes. Like, I sent him a potato that said pre-clearance granted.
What? I don't get it.
I know. The backstory is that I was anonymously sending him potatoes in the mail for like a year with threatening messages on them.
Like inside the potato, or you written?
No, like written in Sharpie. And it was just like an eye for an eye, in unmarked packages.
Sounds like it could get expensive after a while. Potatoes aren't that light,
It was expensive.
Yeah.
And I did it for a year, and I didn't tell him it was me. And I was like, who is it? We got to get these people. We got to get these motherfuckers.
That's some serious commitment. It's hard to pull off a prank for that long.
I just it was for my own amusement. But then I found out that he actually knew it was me the whole time. And he was, for his own amusement, engaging in the conversations. And anyways, so down the line, with a lot of effort on his end, I sent him a pre-clearance potato. So he knew he was safe to propose to me.
So, and then at what point did you guys open it up and then close it back down, or what happened with that?
So we got married in September of 2019. And then we opened things up, I think, in February 2020.
Uh-huh.
And then COVID hit and we were stuck in our apartment. And it's really hard to navigate like an open marriage, hooking up with strangers while there's a global pandemic. And so, and being the way I am, I'm like, okay, we got to be ethical about this. Here are the testing days. Let's stagger things. Like,
Man,
so
that adds so much extra work.
yeah.
I was in Ukraine at the time and very much single and loving life. Like for me, COVID was the greatest thing that ever happened. All the clubs were closed. I was in the coolest, huge apartment that I threw parties at every weekend.
Yeah.
It was like, and plus in Ukraine, no one even really believed in COVID very much. They were like, oh, it's bullshit. And I was just like, having the time of my life as a single guy with no barriers, no clubs to compete with. Like I said, every girl wanted to party, and I was the only game in town. So,
oh my God,
and
you're living the life.
restaurants were open. You could just call and they were closed, but you had to use the back door and they would just let you in. The lights were all closed in the front. So it's like, it was the best place to be because, it's semi-corrupt, of course. And it was, you could get away with everything.
That's
no
fun.
one gave a shit.
Semi-corrupt is fun.
Semi-corrupt is great.
Yeah.
So
I was in Sydney for a lot of it, shooting Thor, Love and Thunder. I was in Sydney for 9 months. So I escaped a lot of the quarantine. I had to quarantine in a hotel room for 2 weeks, but then after that, it was basically normal.
Mhm.
And then we flew home like a month before it got really fucking bad there.
Mm.
So I got really lucky too.
Yeah. And so was it challenging opening up the marriage? Like was he against it? Cause you had told him what to expect.
Here, I would say was the biggest challenge is that for women, it's kind of different where there's safety involved. First of all, I was really paranoid about COVID.
Mhm.
So I wanted somebody that I could trust. And also once you verify someone's hot, cool, and not trying to kill you, you kind of just need to stick with that. You don't want to keep playing with fire.
Right.
So
you're looking for other partners, but not short-term one and done partners.
I was looking for a long-term, non-serious one person, and Justin.
Side piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And Justin was more looking for just variety and keeping it just whatever.
Mhm.
And I think that would have preferred he picked one person because of the COVID of it all. And he would prefer I varied my profile because it felt too relationship-y at that point. But the circumstances that's just where it went.
Dictated that. Yeah. Yeah. So it's so interesting talking about the polarity and the dynamics of that, right? Because as a guy, if you're in an open relationship, it's like, do you want your girl to fuck a bunch of dudes or one dude, right? And it's like there's way more security in the fact that she's just having lots of random sex with random guys, but there's also, the ego potential of well, if she's having all that variety, maybe she's gonna, level up and find someone better because she's so exposed to it. But then the jealousy piece when she's with someone else, and that's you're like, well, maybe she loves that guy more, or maybe that relationship is like the new energy and it's stronger. And that's definitely a thing too. Like new relationship energy is really fucking strong, right? Because it's that infatuation, it's all those, chemicals mixing in your body, and that can be intense and that can be really tough for, people to navigate an open relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say that our relationship at that point was so well earned. I think he probably felt really secure, in the sense that if you just look at the historical data, it's unlikely I'm going to find someone that I'd like to settle down with. And also we just at that point had known each other so well. We had the foundation of 4 years of monogamy under our belt, and there were boundaries communicated that were respected. I think in that sense, it was all good. We never really ran into jealousy around specific people or hooking up itself. It was more that it's complicated emotional navigation around like my paranoia with COVID and us wanting to do things a different way.
Got it.
And like for him, he's a guy. I hadn't realized how different it was for men and women on the apps.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
tell us your experience on the apps.
as a woman, it's kind of like your job is to not get murdered and find someone normal and hot enough. But it's fairly straightforward in terms of once you choose, you can just go on a date with them. Whereas for men, volume is everything.
So you're selecting, women are the selectors, of course. So you're if he's hot enough, right? You're swiping and then you're gauging via messages if he's normal.
Exactly. And once you like kind of get a sense for them, then you can go on a date. It's kind of straightforward in that way.
How much are you using, social media, Instagram to vet people?
Oh, I'm using it.
So if a guy doesn't have Instagram,
if they don't have Instagram, it's much harder to decide to go on the date because the Instagram can show you, like, does he have friends? Do women hang out around him? There's so much you can learn. Whereas guys tend to, on their Instagrams, on their like dating profiles, they're like holding a fish. And I'm like, okay, great. You like to kill fish. And that's all I know about you. Like,
not a good profile photo.
Stop with the fish, guys.
No one's impressed. Girls, I don't think many girls are really into fishing. Even if you catch like a marlin, which is terrible because they're so beautiful. Like I hate fish. I've never been fishing because I don't want to kill a fish.
And yeah,
I like to eat fish, so call me a hypocrite or whatever. But like, I don't want to kill it. I don't want to do that.
It's weird that it's like, here is my trophy,
right?
My killing, but I won't kill you. Trust me.
Trust me there.
Any sort of trophy hunting, I'm fucking out because I can at least understand you're going to eat something, but what? So you can feel cool in your living room? Like, dumb.
So take down the giant, moose ear or moose antlers. Don't have that shit out. Show
your face. Don't hide behind sunglasses or give me some weird resolution photo. Yeah.
So, and then obviously the man's perspective is, I can pull up this this graphic right here. This is a Tinder journey for this gentleman. So this is a guy who's 30 years old, male, 30. Already said that. He's been on Tinder for 3 years and 246 days. And this is a guy who was in my group, relatively attractive guy, probably a 6 out of 10, 5'10", 178 centimeters. He swiped 95,176 times. He got 13,000 right swipes, only 171 matches.
What's a match versus a right swipe?
A right swipe is how many times he swiped right.
Okay.
Yeah. So he swiped left 82,000 times. He swiped right 13,000 times. So it's not like he's just swiping on everyone, right? And he only got 171 matches out of the 13,000 swipes. And then he had 123 chats and then one date, no sex.
Good.
Online dating is tough.
No.
Yeah. What's your reaction to that?
I'm sad. Because I'm sure he's a lovely person. I know that you have like a strenuous kind of like inventory you take in order to make sure somebody's like normal and a good person before you take on a client. And so
they have to be able to afford it. It's not cheap.
Yeah. Like
it's like this is a dude who he's a solid guy and you see those results and like,
how I feel about all of your clients. Mm-hmm. Every time I meet them, I love all of them so much. They're wonderful people.
and you help out at the immersions and the boot camps we do. And
Yeah.
you're one of the, the female models we bring in to do the exercises on and to give feedback. And, the guys all fall in love with you. And
Those days are the best. They're so fun. I think that my big issue is that I disarm too much, and then we end up just talking like we're friends and forgetting the exercise. Remember,
that's like so who you are. It's like, no, even if we're trying to be like, disconnected, it just doesn't work.
Let's talk about your dreams.
While we sit on the bed and lie on the bed.
They always lie on the bed with me. Well,
you're lying on the bed, so there's like, well, what do I do?
They could sit at the foot of the bed. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so to give some context, we do the speed dating exercise where, we've got 5 girls, 5 guys. The girls are situated in different spots where I can film each one. And, typically at a table or standing on the balcony or, at two chairs. But Simi decided to just go lie in the bed. And
I was tired.
The guys are doing like a mock approach, and they're like, well, what do I do? Do I stand here? Do I sit on the bed? I'm just going to lie next to her. So
it's always like a bit of a psychological experiment, because the other time we did it, I was sitting on the balcony outside on a couch, and there was like an ottoman, so they could sit across from me or they could sit next to me.
Yeah, it's a way to gauge how comfortable they are with that proximity.
What keeps happening is that they end up sitting on the thing and putting their arm around me right away.
So, yeah, if you guys, you should definitely come to those. Those are a lot of fun, and you get feedback from amazing women like Simi. So
thank you.
Yeah, no, it's great you're the best for those. So you got to keep helping out.
I will. It's fun.
Yeah, I love it. We do it once every three months.
And we all get so close by the end.
Mm-hmm.
I am like looking at all of their Instagrams, cheering them on. Every time I see one of them, I'm like writing thirsty comments on their photos. Because they are vetted and normal and nice guys who won't murder you. So like they deserve, I would like to showcase that women think that they're great.
Yeah. And the whole reason for a lot of these boot camps that I do is to like teach them how to meet girls during the day and how to avoid the apps and how to build a social circle and get out of this, endless swiping. But obviously, as a beautiful girl, for you, it's like, you've got more matches than you know what to do with. You open the thing up and it's a totally different experience as the selector versus the one hoping to be selected.
Many women I talk to have this issue where they just get so overwhelmed they delete the app.
Right.
I do think like an intro line that makes you stand out is important. If someone's just like, hey, what's up? Cowboy emoji. Kind of, it's just like, how does that make you distinct from the 50 other ones that say that?
Right.
And it can't be so. I've had one where it was like, I would fight with nunchucks to this, to that, just to get a shot with the doctor who was there the day you were born. It's like, who are you sending this to? You're sending this to everybody.
For sure. Well, I've got a bunch of scripts that I teach the guys so they're not reinventing the wheel each time. And usually the women can't tell. And even if they can tell, then I have a line to deal with that as well. But that's the thing. It's like, you got to be normal. You have to be cool. You got to be normal. And she has to think you're not going to murder her. And then, as you were saying, what was the next piece of the, or where were you going with that in terms of like meeting? Or we were talking about the relationship being open, and just how much easier it was for you to meet people versus Justin, because Justin's a good looking dude. He's confident. He's got swag. He's got riz, and it's just not as easy.
Well, it's not that it's not as like for him, he's like hot. So, and the other thing that was kind of working in his favor is that he's married.
Right.
So he has the ultimate seal of approval from at least one woman.
But that also makes it complicated, for... You'd
be surprised how many horny women there are out there.
No, I mean, that doesn't surprise me. But you take away the option for the woman that there's a future, right? So now he's got a much smaller pool where he's selecting people for, casual sex and that sort of thing, obviously, which is good because that's the whole point. It's not like but you are eliminating a huge percentage of the population from the dating pool that you're going after. That's even because most guys are willing to just hook up, right? And then they're going to catch feelings later. But there's, as Justin in that position, he has to kind of be forward about the fact that he is married, he's in an open relationship, and that severely, limits the dating pool. So that makes it even more tough.
Yeah, it definitely does eliminate some people. But you would be surprised
Well,
how many women are either in open relationships themselves or just looking for a good time.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So out of your friends, I guess if we're trying to gauge, I feel like there's a much higher number of women like you now than there were 10 years ago, right? There's a lot of women, especially in the US and other, Western cultures, that are way more open and way more willing to try open relationships than, I feel like that number is getting bigger and bigger every year.
Mm-hmm.
Which, as a guy who's interested in short-term, dating, that's great news. And almost every guy, in my opinion, they should be interested in that until they've done enough of that to where they're like, okay, I'm ready to settle down. I want something long-term. Like, because if you take a guy who isn't ready to settle down and then he settles down, now you've got a recipe for divorce. And
that sucks. Yeah, don't do that.
It's only the guys that can't create that outcome that, that they don't do it for the most part, or religious people. But would you agree with that sentiment? Like, for the girls, it's like much more mainstream and normal now to have some sort of open or situationship.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends who have grown into it. And there are plenty of people who are just like, that's not for me. And they know that will always be the case. But I definitely think that way more, like more and more people are interested. I think, what was that one? Monogamish came out.
Monogamous, is that a show or
I think so. It's like a documentary style.
cool.
It's just become more mainstream. There are a couple books and shit that came out that also I just think that the consciousness is shifting a little bit.
I think so too. So do you have any, I don't know, practical wisdom or words of advice for both guys and girls who want to dabble?
Yeah. I mean, if you're just getting started, I would say go on Field, because there you can actually list, you can filter based on sexual preferences. It'll do a lot of the work for you, where you can filter for people looking for the same thing.
Gotcha. Oh, that's the other thing I would ask. Have you ever been into girls?
No. It's like I keep trying and failing.
Just
I've tried to force it, and because I've been like, okay, I'm really like, I have masculine energy. Maybe I need to like see this through. And the other thing too is like, I think everyone's hot. So I'm like, oh, she's so hot.
mm-hmm.
But I've never been able to be into it.
Never strapped it on and
I'm not
into it.
Yeah, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I wish it was for me.
Yeah.
All the time. I wish that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that there's like a convenience too. Because I don't want to generalize, but male and female brains and like emotions kind of behave differently sometimes. And I think what a luxury it could be to just have that same level of empathy and understanding of one another's experience. But no, I'm sorry to say it.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of sad listeners listeners and viewers on the other end, but mostly women, that is.
Sorry, ladies. What about you? Have you ever like considered it?
No, I've never been like bi-curious or interested in that. And it's funny because I've been around. I was actually in like one of my gurus, I guess you could say, this guy Carl Wolf, who passed away. Did you ever hear about Crazy Carl Wolf? Mm-hmm. So he had this group in Santa Monica where he would teach basically like embodiment work.
Okay.
So the intro to his work is you meet him at the Santa Monica boardwalk. He videotapes you renting rollerblades, and then you rollerblade with him while he's videotaping the whole thing. Then you got in his car, and then he gives you feedback on how you are in life based on the video. And he tells you like things like, well, you're rollerblading and you're staring at the ground the whole time. You never once look out to the horizon. You have no vision for your life. Or the way you were interacting with the clerk who gave you the rollerblades, you were like dismissive of him. You were a little bit disrespectful. You didn't say this about me, but like you were a certain way. And I know this about you, because his whole premise was how you do anything is how you do everything, which I tend to agree with in a lot of ways. So it was, and then he also ran this group that met every Wednesday, where people would do all these movement exercises, and he'd have people like shaking their hands and he'd saying like, you're signaling to get away from me. You're saying, gimme, gimme, gimme. Like just, it was weird, but it was interesting. And you learned a lot about yourself. And it was a safe space where people could be very honest and extremely judgmental, but forward about it. So you'd get feedback that you would never hear.
It's like your workshops.
I adopted a lot of the practices from him, of course,
where
right?
everyone feels so safe and you can say the meanest things ever, but it's all with love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All with love. And so, wait, why was I talking about that though?
I asked if you were gay.
Oh, right. So he was gay, and he would convert a lot of his students to become like his gay lovers. And he's a 65-year-old guy.
Like in a Me Too way, or just like fully fine?
Fine. I mean, he was converting like guys my age. And it surprisingly happened with like many, many straight guys.
Did he proposition you?
He never propositioned me. He never, like, he was flirty.
Yeah.
Right? Like I knew he wanted it, but he was never weird about it.
He wanted it.
And, and then he was always talking about how humans are naturally, bisexual. Everyone's bisexual. Maybe that was maybe he was pushing that as a way to indoctrinate, and groom his new young boy ass.
I don't disagree. I just think it's hard to undo all of our conditioning at this point. But like,
I think if there was no societal judgment and if it wasn't a weird thing, like, and if it was okay for men to be bi-curious, then I wouldn't have any problems with it. I just don't find them attractive.
This is where I'm at. It's like, it's like any time I've dipped a toe in, it's been because like you're here and why not?
Yeah.
Never that same impulse.
Funny story, at a sex party, unbeknownst to me, it was actually my birthday party. Probably told this story on the podcast before.
Hold on. Back up. Your birthday party was a sex party?
My 32nd birthday party was a sex party.
I wasn't invited.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense. It was a sex party.
It was hosted by Genevieve in Anaheim.
Uh-huh.
And it was like all of our swinger friends and there was a few unicorns there. Like I think it was probably 8 to 10 couples and like 6 or 7 girls. And my ex-girlfriend Jamie, did you ever meet Jamie?
No.
She brought this dude, and he was bi. And so at one point, Vive, another girl, and one other girl were giving me a birthday blowjob. And
nice.
So and then at some point Jamie came over and she was like, "Oh, are you guys giving him a birthday blowjob? We want to give him a birthday blowjob too. Can we give him a birthday blowjob?" And she meant her and Brett. And I wasn't really paying attention to I'm just like lying there, I'm definitely, high on life. And, it's dark. And then all of a sudden I see so I'm not even really hearing what's going on there. I'm just hearing this blowjob and I'm just having a good time. And then all of a sudden I see someone's head being thrown across the, thrown away. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? And Vive turns to me and she's like, "Brett was sucking your dick." And I'm like, "For how long?" She's like, "Only like half a second." I immediately went inside.
I was wondering, what do you mean someone's head was thrown? That makes a lot more sense.
And I was like, well,
yeah,
whatever. Who cares? No big deal, right? Like,
of course, it comes with the territory.
when you have a sex party, you
never know. Yeah.
So yeah,
You don't want to keep track of that. That's too much work. It's your birthday blowjob.
Yeah.
It's not your job.
I was also propositioned at Burning Man. I was hooking up with, so me and a girl were hooking up with another couple, and he was bi. So but after we swapped partners, he
wanted to
he wanted to do something. But the way he propositioned it was like really courteous, really respectful, really cool. Like she was also kind of, testing the waters there, because that's really a murky, sort of dangerous topic, right? Because like you can get guys that are so homophobic that they're like, no man, they get physical or they get aggressive. Obviously, Burning Man's a pretty safe space to do those sorts of things too. But that's what he was sort of hoping for as an extra, cherry on top to the previous experience, or maybe maybe I was like the subtle main dish that he was trying to get to.
You never know.
Yeah, but yeah, I've just never I've certainly had the opportunity, and it would have been non-judgmental. I just never really wanted to.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if it happened, it would just be like, okay, whatever. It felt how it felt, but it's not like there's no desire there. And so,
yes,
sounds like you could relate.
I definitely can relate, except it's a little bit more of like I'm trying it out, but every single time I'm like, why did I do that?
Right. Like I already tried this and I remember it
after time. But the other thing too is like if you're a unicorn and you meet a couple, well, it's just going to happen.
Yeah. Have you done much unicorning?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. So that's got to be maybe like a sensitive subject when the girl doesn't feel like you're really into her, or are you setting those ground rules in the beginning that is more just?
I don't think they can tell.
Okay. Oh, so you're faking it with them, and
I'm not faking it.
Well, not you're still hooking up, but you're just
it my all. Right. I'm an equal opportunist.
Okay.
But
they could probably feel the lack of enthusiasm.
I don't think they can. It's more just that I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, I just like don't feel anything, but like I can still do the same stuff.
Okay, so it's not like it's stopping you. It's just not.
No.
Got it.
No, it's definitely not stopping anything.
Okay. So yeah, any tips for either, mainly guys who are listening to this, so guys or watching. If you guys aren't watching, you should be watching, because you can't see, beautiful Simi's profile here. She's half in the darkness, half in the light.
I know. I hate that this is making me so like, fuck it. You can see my eye bags and all sorts of shit. But.
Well, my studio is only set up for daytime recording because there's no lights in this apartment, which is.
We talked for too long.
Yeah.
I have known you for 24 years. Isn't that fucking crazy?
That's a long time.
We're old.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So this was great. Guys, get the new brew. Anything else you want to promote? If guys want to, follow you or anything like that, or
sure. You want to follow me? It's not that exciting, but at Simona_was_here. See you there.
All right, guys. So until next time, like this, do all those things, subscribe, tell your buddies, buy some new brew, send me a message, and have a good one.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're a regular listener and you're digging our content, do me a favor, leave us a 5-star review. It's how other people learn about the show and how we can spread the word. If you don't feel like it's worthy of 5 stars, just go ahead, don't leave any review at all. And I want to let you know that we've opened up a few slots in our exclusive community. We're accepting applications to join our select group of men and experience the radical power of accountability, step up your game, cross everything off your sexual bucket list, and become a beast at accomplishing all of your goals. To learn more and apply, go to innerconfidence.com/community.